This is your buddy Biff Strange for Creativity Talking, episode 132, with your host, Mr. V, and special guest star, the lovely and beautiful Mr. Leon Rebel.
Hey, where'd you
What's
get
up,
that
dude?
picture from? Not much, man. How are you, V?
Look at that picture, man. Look at you.
Yeah, I think you got
That's
that
a
off a
great
milk
picture,
carton.
man. Looking good, buddy.
And if somebody can find me, I'll pay a handsome reward.
Right on. So today we're going to be talking about special needs and from a personal point of view, from a vendor point of view, from an educational point of view, actual educational system, and government point of view. Between me and Leon, we have all these things that we've dealt with, to combine to talk about this, because a lot of people don't understand it, and a lot of people are glomming onto something that is built and took a long time to build for people who really need it, and there should be maybe something else for things on the lesser side.
Absolutely.
And
topic
lesser,
near and dear to
by
my
saying
heart.
lesser, I don't mean diminutive.
No. But I think that's the other thing. I think we've somehow cultivated in society that a word that has various meanings also has connotation specifics, and that's not the case. Lesser in is I'm lesser in a lot of ways. I did a post today because I got a email that said, we hired somebody else. Thank you for applying. Check our website. I got to thinking, how lesser am I in many regard with what I thought in my head I might be that is above average. And so I think the whole point I want to make is just simple acceptance, and acceptance around us, acceptance of myself, and an acceptance of a word that just means be and let be, and live and let live, and love and let love, and receive love.
Well, here's the thing. The algorithm is missing one important component, and that's the human touch.
That is an element that we unfortunately at times selectively pick and choose when we want to apply that. And I think that's our downfall in society as the past 500 years.
Like when we grew up, you needed a job, you went down the street and there was a sign and you applied and you got hired.
Yeah, it's
you know what I mean? It wasn't anything magical,
There are a lot of variables that go around the economy, and again, I think it's full circle to what our topic is today, because if we're talking about inclusion and building your own self-worth, of providing for yourself with some means, and the opportunity to learn from a job or school. When it comes to special needs individuals, the bar is almost sometimes non-existent because it keeps moving so fast. Well, we can't hire because of limitations, or set the bar too low and you flood everything where, again, the degrees are looked at versus individuals. And how can we provide opportunities for somebody of special needs and limitations, physical, mental, to start feeling like they belong in society, and in turn, society seeing more and more for acceptance, understanding, and allowance?
Right.
I think it's a tough sell. It really is, because it's limited. I think that as a single father, just thinking about this today with the whole job market thing, and every time I see a no, it affects me personally, because now it's like, okay, what's my plan? What's my plan to include a son that I have lifetime guardianship of, because I did have to go through a court process to show that my son Dominic is in need of having somebody around him who can help guide him with decision making of finances, of medical, and all these other things that, I think sometimes we feel are inherent when we turn 18.
Right.
And so that affects, when I get a no, it's like, okay, well, how do I restructure? How do I regroup? How do I continue to try and accommodate my plan so that it incorporates my son for his plan? And then, the other two kids who are also part of the mix. And so it creates, it's a heavy burden, man. And
yeah. And what's interesting too is a lot of people don't know there's several different types of community that you can have when someone's going on to independence. It could be either a group home with 4 people in a house. It could be in a larger condo type style where it's more medical. Then there's whole communities like out here in Chicago. We have Misericordia, and 732 people, I believe, live there year round. And I was a vendor for Misericordia, and let me tell you, anytime we're in Chicago and we're having a bad day, hey, let's pop over, because within 5 minutes, I mean, you're hit with so much love. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? The love and energy. A lot of people want to ignore it and put it away. And like, I was lucky enough to go to a high school that started inclusion in like the late 70s. And so when I would blow off school, people thought I was out smoking pot. I was in the special needs room hanging out with those dudes.
I think that,
and I learned more there than I would in any other class.
And I think that's a great point, because if we look at special needs kids, individuals, as as just tokens, as just things, meaning they're just there, and I think that 2 things happen. One, fear is created, meaning I don't know how to approach this person. Therefore, I'm assuming. The other one is a disconcern of, again, the human nature component, meaning, to your point, people assumed you were doing all this other stuff when in turn you were actually hanging out.
Yeah.
And when we don't have an opportunity to have people see things, to have that exposure, then I really think it creates such a disservice to, again, humanity as a whole.
Yeah.
Because we're missing out.
And you know what, Leon? What's even better than that? The far-reaching implications. Do you see this cup of coffee? Now, when I used to blow off school and hang out in the classroom, I see Mike every day. 35 years later, I see Mike every day.
Yeah.
Mike, what's going on?
And you built from that, because again, that foundation was there, and I think it really it creates an opportunity to shed a layer of wanting to not take the time to see and learn or approach somebody, versus an exposure that you're just used to it and you're treating somebody just like you would want to be treated. And again, I know that's a little cliche.
We had people in the extended family who are missing both their legs and, an arm or some fingers, an eyeball, all types of things, and, we have cousins that, are developmentally disabled and, not developmentally, but, it's, it was never a thing.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty in assimilation, especially with school-aged kids. And if we can allow our students to, and again, at varying degrees, but if we can allow our students to have an understanding that they're just another person, they might have either vocal, cognitive, physical, whatever the limitations might be.
Right.
But it just turns into something of beauty, because now it's just an everyday thing. Hey, there's so-and-so, there's so-and-so. it's not, you have to treat them with kid gloves, or worse, don't
Right.
approach them.
Yeah.
Just stay away. I think that's the worst thing, but I don't fault a lot of people. I still personally wear a chip on my shoulder if I ever have to go out in public with my son. And, I'm already a teddy bear in many regards, but I become a grizzly just in facade. I until I can break down and trust an environment
Right.
where I'm at, then I'm not letting anything down. And so I'm just kind of already just looking like,
Right. You're
don't
alert.
even approach me.
Right.
And so every once in a while, I'll do the face and I'll do the walk,
Right.
and I'll just kind of look down and then, look at my son and say, all right, we doing okay? And I say it loud enough so people around wherever we're at, maybe concerts or at the mall, they're aware that, hey, for this child, we're just going to stay away. Now, I've thought about this long and hard. What happens if, okay, say somebody says something and I take offense? Because with Dominic, I'll explain. Dominic is Down syndrome.
Okay.
He is trisomy 21, translocated, which means that he is limited in cognitive, but in his physicality,
Mhm.
very normal.
Okay.
And so I am, I'm blessed to have
Right.
Dominic. So he's very outgoing. He wants to engage in dialogue. His speech is very choppy, hard to understand him, but he's so approachable. And I fear that. And again, what if somebody said something and I caught it? What if then I confronted an individual,
Mhm.
it got physical, and I hurt the guy or he hurt me? What would that do? To me, in my mind, it does two things. If I get hurt, then I'm not able to,
Right.
wrap my wing and protect my son.
Yeah. Then he's going to be freaking out. Yeah.
And then he's going to be freaking out. Or if I hurt somebody in his mind, what does that do? So all
Right.
this plays out, and the beauty of it is, I'm so middle of the road in many things. It takes a lot to go off this way or that way. That I know that if I can get by with just the facade, that unapproachableness, then I don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I do wonder if I'm doing a disservice of
Right.
not teaching somebody, because we do get a lot of people who approach, especially, Dominic likes to wear concert shirts, or he likes to rock out. And I've taken him to many concerts. He's my concert
Mhm.
buddy, and people see, and, they'll give a thumbs up, or they'll do the horns.
Yeah. And me and him
And-
have the same electronic drums.
He got the same drums and he's jamming, and so I embrace that. And the beauty about, heavy metal rock and roll people is everyone just kind of, there's one or two of the group that are crazy knuckleheads, posers who out of liners, moshing, at a Foghat concert. And you're going,
Right.
dude, this is Slow Ride. Who moshes at Slow Ride,
Exactly.
But
Very slow moshing.
slow
It's like
ride.
Tai Chi moshing.
But there's them, but they're out there. But for the most part, they're all embracing it. And that's what I love about being able to take him to venues and stuff. But yeah, there's a lot that goes through the mind of being a dad with a special needs son. And I don't even know if every time I use the word special needs, or hear even the R word, I used to not be offended too much about the word retarded, because one, the true definition of the word is really the explanation of the issue, the hindrance, the lack of, the missing. And, all of a sudden it turned into a joke, and I can laugh at it. No one's ever called my son the R word to his face, maybe behind my back, which, what it is. I haven't heard it. I can't speculate on that. So I've never really had to deal with hearing that word that has been directly related to somebody I adore.
Right.
But again, it goes back to, the lesser word. And again, words and the power and the meanings. I've decided a long time ago to not give that word the true power that for me, because again, I can't think for even my son, even though he is, very independent, very, very cognitive in some regard. Even though I'm dad, I'm trying to be protective. I can't think for him. I
Right.
can't, he has free will. He has understanding of things. And so I don't ever want to make him feel like I'm thinking for him. And then he's just following this mirrored learned behavior because I'm the example. I want to be an example. I do raise my voice at him. I do treat him like, hey, dude, you're going to be a big boy. Or you're going to sit here and cry. And he'll kind of look at me like, I'm a big boy. And I go, okay, well then let's stop this nonsense, whatever it might be. And let's be a big boy. And so what I've done is I've related big boy to like the concerts. So I bought him a picture, that a collage picture that has us at various concerts. And I'll point at the picture and I'll go, you see that, Dominic? That's the big boy. You go to the concert, you hang out, you meet these bands, we rock out. That's the big boy. Are you going to be a big boy or are you going to be a baby? Now, V, I don't know if that's the right parenting technique. Maybe I'm fucking him up. And he's like, so
You gotta be a pussy or you gotta fuck.
Yeah, well, exactly. What the fuck is wrong with you? So sometimes I'm like,
Right.
shit, am I patronizing this
But
kid?
you know what though? Like in their mind, it could, whoever this is, they could be looking at something and this isn't standing the right way.
Yeah.
And that's the worst thing in the world. So there's that as well,
But the beauty of that is he also teaches me, because in catching myself, now I apply that to him, but I also apply it to my other children. I apply it in business settings. I apply it in personal settings. So there is a beauty that I get to learn from him. But this kid's too bright. And I think I can also sense when I think he feels that I'm bullshitting him. Because I'll have
back to you. So you're gonna be a big boy?
It's like, what the hell, Dad? What are you bitching for? I'm looking forward to that day, because let me tell you what, man, I will think.
See that guy in the picture, Dad?
You see that guy? He's supposed to be a tough macho man.
Come on.
Are you going to be a macho man, or are you going to be a wussy? And I'm going to laugh, but he does. He's so funny because he if I'm on the phone or I'm doing something, he'll talk to me. He just loves talking. And again, we have our own language because it's hard to understand him. But the other day, he was Dad. And I go, yeah. I look at him and he shows me his iPad, and I go, yeah. Keep rocking out. And then he looked at me and he goes, you're not listening. And he walked away. And I grabbed my phone, man, and I'm like, oh man, I just dissed him bad.
Nice.
And I got called on it. And it was so funny because I put the phone down and I went up and I said, I'm sorry. And he looked at me and he laughed, biggest smile, and he just buried his head in my chest. And man, it was like, holy shit. So yeah, I learn every day from this kid. And at the same time, as we get older and we're older, I do worry. What's the future hold? What if I'm not in his life for any reason? You mentioned group home. I know there are options.
Yeah.
I'm right now scared that would be maybe the last thing on the itemized list of possibilities.
Right.
Now, I do want to be realistic. Maybe that has to be moved up to 3 or 4. And that scares the hell out of me. So for you to see these things on a daily basis as a job, but also with the human spirit of kindness and a desire to help, but also the desire to just be around folks who just, when I say they don't care, the sun is shining. They're surrounded in a place that they're just content being right there where they're at. That is infectious. And
Well, it's not, it's not being ignorant. It's ignorant of the fact.
absolutely, absolutely right. And I think, again, that goes back to a fear where I can't approach because maybe there is a Leon out there and, he's doing the tough wrestling
Right.
walk. And, I don't want to.
Yeah. Like going back
Well,
to, like, you say your son has his own language, it's modified and you guys
yeah.
understand it. So I go to Disability Expo like I do every year, and I'm walking around, I'm talking, hey, what's going on? This, checking out some stuff. I'm like, oh, hey. And I'm talking, and this lady's like, and she said, how are you? And this, that, and da, 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 like I'm deaf, and I'm like, oh, da, da, da. And she's like, okay, what's she saying? I'm like, okay, I've known Kathy for 10 years. We're good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like she wasn't even reading Kathy's face. But, oh, I
Yeah.
know this dude. You know what I mean?
And I think that's, again, a disservice that we protect, or and I say we, a society in general, without, again, I'm not talking specific families and what they do. I'm just talking as a whole, that there's not enough exposure. And again, you look at, we're cyclical with the craziness of the centuries of the world, the Black Plague, all the plagues that have run rampant in this round ball, or flat earth for some, but this round ball. And we've lived through a great many things. And I think in that, we've also learned that people suck. Not all, but a good majority of them kind of suck.
Right.
And so I think at the same time, when there's that kind of people suck mentality, or, we're talking maybe about placing a child in the school system. Well, we don't know what we need. And that fear limits, I think, a lot of things, including the ability to provide a quality education, quality speech, behavior, occupational programs in school districts, where you just get a block. And if there's a block, then everything fits in the place. But that block and I've encountered this block for 18 years of my son's life. That block has always been tried to be forced into a triangle hole or a round hole. And it's never going to fit.
Right.
But the go-to is, well, we got a block and we got this. We'll make it work. Well, something's going to give. And what gives is a quality education,
and that's
or enough funding
because no matter what it is, they're like, okay, this is what this is. And according to this graph here, this is here. But that doesn't even work with what's going on with it. Well, it doesn't matter. So
graphs are, I like graphs. And I think whoever invented graphs was really just was a magician. And let me tell you why. Because the true trick of magic is smoke and mirrors. And if you can show somebody a graph, then you don't really have to kind of get explain too much into it, because what do you mean you don't see the blue? Yeah. What do you mean you don't see the teal? Well, look at what it says. It says 62%. That's a lot. Okay, a lot of what? And then what are we doing about that 62%? Is that 62% in 5 years going to be exponential? So over 180 something? No, but you can't see the graph. And so graphs, I think, have gotten, have watered down a lot of things and I made this comment. I really had felt for the longest time, and I still do as a school board member, that school districts are sometimes using our special need kids as numbers to pad a bottom line so they can either apply for state or federal funding. If they get that state and federal funding, then my question has always been, how is it being used? And more importantly, how are you measuring results? Because if you get federal funding, let's just say for an occupational therapist or a speech therapist, and you're just shoving my child into a room for an hour every 2 weeks, Well, I got to be honest, that's not teaching him. And somebody's getting paid a lot of money to use my son as a number that says, oh, yeah, we did this. Well,
Right.
can he say Apple? Can he say dad? Can he say I need? Can he says that hurts? Not very well. And that's my problem with graphs. Again, very important. I've dealt with graphs, gosh, 2 decades of my career.
Yeah.
And if nobody can explain what this graph means and what we're expected from this graph tomorrow, well, then take the graph and condense your PowerPoint presentation from 50 pages to 10, because
Right.
then that helps me. But,
For
you
sure.
know, I don't know. I think it's just one of those things where we get tied up into the optics and it makes me look good. I got a colorful presentation. And at the end of the day,
Right.
okay, 62%. And you know, New Mexico's a large, diverse state.
Mhm.
Hispanics, Native Americans, other ethnicities. My biggest complaint has been, you know, great. There is a large, diverse
Students with
populace.
disabilities at 16 at 16%. That's a pretty substantial number.
That is a huge number. And so my, you know, again, the argument has always been for me out of that
9% of
60%,
people in Illinois are disabled.
it's something that I
That's
think
amazing.
it turns into a numbers and a political game without coming off,
Right, right.
like there's some conspiracy. That's not the case.
Right, right, right.
Again, traversing this for 18 years and then having to make a decision. You know, we were talking earlier, the age of a special needs child from an individual education plan or IEP,
Yeah.
a child can go to school up until the age of 21,
Mhm.
which is great. But my decision that I personally made was, okay, 21. So am I just sending him off to be babysat somewhere? You know, what's the curriculum? I
Right, I
can
mean, if the why don't you make it till 22 and give them some type of college education? That would be
college education or something where, you know, there actually maybe some
trade.
internal school work program, something that just makes them
Right.
feel a benefit.
Mhm.
You know, it just seems that again, especially after the age of 18, we're stuck in a curriculum-based kind of understanding that says school is for this. Well, aside from special needs, I
Right.
think school has gotten away from just trying to train students to be fiscally responsible, to learn how to cope with an argument, to be able to take criticism
Right.
and go, okay, how about we agree to disagree?
Yeah, disagreeing isn't a bad thing.
We're not teaching our children that at all. I think we're teaching them to conform.
Right.
We're putting them in schools that, you know, for a certain number of time they have a teacher. Teachers, my gosh, my hat is off to teachers. This is probably the toughest industries, careers to ever enter into, because not only a pure heart, you want to teach, but you know, the healthcare alone. We just passed in our school district an insurance plan that I think it went up to 70/20. So that means that the school district will pay 70% of your insurance. Teachers will pay 20% copay. 20% copay in this era of not factoring in a recession, but spreading them thin with curriculum, with maybe a over a population, or, you know, 20, 30 students in a classroom. We're just piling on. So I'm not saying all teachers are cynical. I think there's a lot of love and admiration for their job, and they do love their students.
Mhm.
But I just think, how is the state, how is the feds making this so difficult for such a platform, soapbox platform that everybody uses, that education is so important? Education, 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 education. Well, education, at least the way I look at it, is yes, it's learning. Is it hands-on learning? Is it a practical approach? Is it a theoretical approach? And I think that's where we are doing such a disservice to all students across the board, because every 4 years, maybe every 8 years, we have a change in administrations. Everybody has a new mousetrap that says, hey, bigger and better. Now we got to take tests to compete with India and China. Well, what was wrong with blue collar work? What was wrong with teaching even special needs students to get a wrench and twist off, a coupling from a water line? What happened to band? All these things, and again, they are political, because as parents, we're called when our child may be acting up. We're called if they're not doing well in school, but we're not called to say, like, hey, how can we change this curriculum? What do you think your son might benefit from with maybe 10 choices versus 2 choices? Math, English. Well, anything you do requires a modicum amount, even a modicum amount of math. Changing a tire requires some mathematical principles to go. Lug nuts, I think, are 1, and then maybe 6, and then that is teaching mathematics. So how did we lose an understanding of really teaching with hands-on, teaching, again, how to accept one another regardless of disagreeing of opinion?
Right.
How did we, get away from, and again, going back full circle, seeing a special need kid and creating more inclusion to have somebody like a V go, hey, I'm going to go sit at that table, because that table, I'm just going to do it. They look pretty cool. Maybe I don't know. And all of a sudden, you're sitting at the table till you graduate, and there's lifelong friends. There's some beauty in that. Then there's, for me as a parent, maybe a little less worry about how society is going to treat my son when society is pretty mean every day with just general things that don't even matter.
Right.
And so that's
you would have hoped that people would have gotten nicer during this event we've been living through the past.
We ebb and flow so bad. We're such,
unfortunately,
we 9/11.
And I think a lot of people are just exhausted.
Well, I was going to say, you're right. I think 9/11, I thought that was a rallying point for, going into a millennial where that we appreciated everybody coming together in such a catastrophic event. Mm-hmm. Well, that lasted a few months. And then, all of a sudden, police officers, all these other kind of individuals were bad. Now, again, bad apples, not arguing that.
Sure.
But how do we change again? Something as powerful as a system that teaches protecting and serving a community. Right. Again, I have such a huge, when I say fear, again, I'm not living in a bubble, but I do have a fear that, if I'm not around my son, who will be 19 next month, and something happens, somebody maybe calls, there's a strange guy walking around the neighborhood, and a patrolman comes up and maybe just had a bad day. Maybe he's the asshole cop on the force. And Dominic doesn't speak very well, doesn't like to be touched, meaning held, manhandled. He freaks out. And all of a sudden, they're trying to arrest him and put cuffs on him and throw him in the back of the car. When I say fear, the pain is so palpable that I can feel it in my gut, that I would never hope that would happen. And we've seen some scenarios where, you have autism kids and or adults who are just walking down the road. Maybe they're lost. Maybe they're just walking. They have a routine, and they're accosted and they're forced. It's not only traumatic for them, it's traumatic for the family. I'm sure it's maybe traumatic after reality settles in for a police officer in a department.
I got a story for you. One of my friends, he went into a convulsive act, and the cops thought he was high, and he was convulsing, and so 6 cops beat the shit out of him. And now he's comfortably retired.
Well, again, that's the other thing aside from the horror of assuming that, and don't get me wrong, without going completely off topic on first responders, police,
Right. No,
there's a
yeah.
lot of crap in the world. I get it.
Right. Yeah.
But, uh, it's costing us in more ways than one. Not only the breaking of a human spirit
hmm
for your friend or anybody else who's had to live
Right.
through that,
Right. Right.
or again, a department as a whole. But it's also, it's costing money, and money is one of those things that money's not coming from individuals; it's coming from state, city, county pot, and I do applaud when people are in the wrong and they get sued,
Right.
because man, but what do we learn from that? I don't know.
Right.
I would hope we learn some lessons and we can take those from individuals who, you know, having a seizure. I couldn't relate to somebody having a seizure.
Right.
I know people who have,
hmm
and so how they live with it, it's just like another day. But for me, I'm probably fearful about wanting to approach somebody, like, oh, then I'm going to assume, oh, look at that dude. He's all fucked up. He's on drugs. Yeah, so I walk away, instead of trying to help.
Yeah.
And so I'm guilty just as much as the next person of assumption and speculation
hmm
in a world that, we have to put on a lot of these layers to feel like we're protected. And I think it becomes a disservice with those who are reliant on us, again, my son, for the rest of his life or my life.
Right.
And it's, and I'm on the downside now of that hill. So, I'm still kind of near the top, but guess what? It's a decline for the next 20, 30 years. And even if it's 20,
brother,
so it's like, get used to a walker, get used to, eye floaters, get used to
Right.
all this. I told the
Yeah.
kids,
Oh, speaking of old, someone just said, "What's up, my brothers?"
that guy is old. See, look, he
Yeah.
thinks that seashell's a telephone.
See, and it's not, and it's cordless.
And it's cordless. Does that
Love
get
you, brother.
Wi-Fi?
Yeah, he piped in on the chat here. Nice. Good evening, gentlemen. But yeah, so okay, so let's start talking about schools and how explain to people what an IEP is.
An IEP is a individual education plan. Now, it is typically dealt with special education SPED department of a school district. There are two components of an IEP. There's one that deals that most people assume as the harsh or the issues, the big issues, either developmental delays, physical delays, challenges, cognitive, physical. But you also have the gifted side. The gifted side is just as equal on an IEP. And so an IEP will then gear out how the school district is going to provide some quality education of a child that is going through a SPED program. And I think we've done ours annually. And I think the beauty in of it is I've got to say a couple of things to not only our SPED department here locally, but those SPED expert that's come in every once in a while, and we have quite the turnstile in this career as well, with SPED directors and people in this particular field of work. But I've said, look, if we're not going to agree, once I leave here and I sign the IEP and I find out something's not been done or somebody's dropped the ball, then I'm not going to come back here very nice. Because guess what we've done? We've all lied to each other. We've all said that we're going to agree this is the best plan going forward for my child, for your student. And then now I'm going to be surprised. I said, no, that's not going to happen. So I've gone through IEPs where I've kind of just got complacent and just went through the process and just kind of said, hey, look, I know I have to do this as a formality. I know he's being counted as a number. I know that, the district will receive some benefit of my son being a number. At the same time, I know he'll receive some benefit from the funding that the school district gets. But let's be real here. We're not creating a utopia here. I know there are limitations in our small community.
Right.
I know there's limitations. Again, on the numbers you posted, that 16%, that's hundreds of other students who are still trying to fit in the school district, and the school district provide for that student. That's a lot of money that needs to be allocated for a populace of maybe, a school that might have 2,000 students. Our school has about 200, 300 maybe on a good year. So I got all that, but I got complacent, and I just said, look, I see the challenges. I'm going to accept them, but I'm hoping we do our best. And if I don't see the best, and again, we leave this agreeing that we are, I'm going to have problems when I come back. I'm not going to be nice.
Mhm.
And again, I'm saying that for a reason. Let's make sure we're doing what we need to do for the greater good. Now, one of the greatest things that we did, and probably the first of its kind in our community here where I'm from, is we got Dominic a caregiver, a one-on-one direct input, directly only responsible for Dominic every day through school year, classes, everything. And we had a young lady, we called her Miss Sue, and she started with Dominic for the first 2 years of his life. She had moved, really worried about, one, are we going to be funded for a one-on-one caregiver? Two, made sure it was in the IEP. The IEP is a legal document, so they had to find one once we agreed.
Right.
Three, who's it going to be? And am I going to trust him? So we got a gentleman by the name of Mr. Joe. And Mr. Joe is, I'll tell you what, not overly religious, somewhat spiritual in a way that the universe provides wonderful things. I try to give back wonderful things to the universe as a thank you, but he was an angel sent to watch Dominic.
Yeah.
And he had been such a influence in Dominic's life for the past 10 years.
Mhm.
And the only thing I started going to the IEP through was, look, you do whatever you want. Something happens to Mr. Joe, I'm coming back, and I'm not going to be happy. Mr. Joe was the teacher. He taught
Yeah.
Dominic how to read, how to write. He taught Dominic how to say words, taught Dominic how to be a man outside of this house. I am so indebted to Mr. Joe that he was family, but we also treated family as, a business, meaning Mr. Joe knew what he had to do. I wouldn't get involved unless I needed to.
Right.
We were a family after hours. During the day, it was business as usual.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, Mr. Joe passed away a few years ago.
Oh,
And
no.
yeah, it was it was a tough thing. For his family, for our family, but that was one of the things that an IEP, the power of an IEP can do. So if any parents are listening or have any family members or friends who are going through an IEP, that IEP is a legal document. And I would shoot for the moon. I would say, I need this, I want that. And then just like any other negotiations, you may not get everything, but you should be able to get the majority, what's the best interest of your family member while they're going through the educational system of a school district. And so, an IEP is very important. And even when I rolled my eyes at it, I still knew its value. And I made that point.
Right.
This is important. And again, it's so important that don't piss me off because I'm going to come in screaming. And I was a huge advocate for the school since inception of my kids. So part of my job as a politician and more so as a parent. So it was a bit of a demand, but it came with zero strings, only one giant piece of cable that said, let's not screw this up or else.
right.
So,
Uh-huh. Just want to just want to remind everybody this podcast is brought to you by vaudevillepres.com. Creativity Talking episode 131 with Mr. Leon Raval, percussionist and pole dancer.
Yeah, the pole got a little thicker. It used to be a really sexy brass pole.
Right?
Now it's, I think the size
Like
of
the ones from Bennigan's?
it's now the size of a 12-inch water pipe.
Yeah.
But hey, it holds me up.
Nice. Nice. And another reminder too to people, all disabilities cannot be seen.
That's right.
So be nice to people. It was funny, like this one time I had just gone through 9 months of rehab after my back surgery, and it was my first day without a cane. So I'm walking across the street to get into Ralph's in LA. And this car is like screaming past, you motherfucking, and he wanted to get out and kick my ass. I'm like, dude, it's my first day without my cane. I'm like talking to his girlfriend. Yeah, your boyfriend's Mr. Tough Guy. Dude, you're in a parking lot. You know what I mean? And just because here's this guy who's 30 years old, what is he fucking with me? No, maybe he just had surgery or something. Like the whole thing is fucking bizarre.
We assume way too much. I had mentioned, I put a chip on my shoulder, and at the same time, I don't know what I'll do if and when I do meet a Karen. Yeah. But I chose to get handicap placards for Dominic because he has vision issues. He's basically legally blind,
right?
And in that, his walking is very difficult. So yeah, we've parked, when we needed to, probably as far out as possible to walk into the store. But then he also gets tired. And so, again, there's a myriad of issues that people, I think, assume, which is why, again, as I get out of the truck or the car, whatever I'm getting out of, I'm puffing up like a pufferfish. Right. I just want to take so much space that nobody is going to be like, oh, you see people as you park next to them who are waiting in their cars or whatever they're doing, and they kind of look over, they quickly look down, and I'm like, yeah, you're damn right. Not that I'm going to do anything, but it's just like, hey, what the hell?
Right.
Don't mess with me. So yeah, to have that, that is a worry. And, it's something that I think, again, a lot of people, I don't know. It sounds like I'm thinking about trying to change people's free will. People are assholes, and that's the beauty of free will. But I'm also a huge, huge believer of karma. And I can only imagine after the guy cussed you out and tried to be cool, that it's somewhere down, he either curb shot his rims or got pulled over.
I was actually looking to see if the cane was in the room because I collect canes. So I kept it. And it's a black cane, and most of the paint is worn off because people would drive real close to you.
Oh yeah.
So every time someone did, me,
whack,
wham, quarter panel taken out. What are they gonna do? Kick the fucking disabled asses? Sure, okay, I'm disabled. Kick my ass off. You almost hit me, dude.
That I need to see that cane because I think that
it's around.
It's the funniest thing that. Again, I don't know what I'm going to do if I ever encounter a Karen, and I'm more than likely not going to do anything. I think I'll just be more in shock, but more curious because I'm a natural curiosity kind of guy anyway. So I just be kind of looking and maybe analyzing, like, wow, this is kind of trippy. I might even take a selfie, just be like, hey, my first Karen incident. Check this out. This person's yelling at me for God knows what, but hey, take my picture because I got to check it out. This is the first time it's happened to me.
Dude, just look at her and go, take the shot.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
We're kidding. We're joking.
What do you mean kick her in the throat?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Am I going to be pardoned? Okay. Yeah. Do that.
Send in the robots.
Yeah, it's amazing, And like when I started doing the stuff out here, the vendors were like, there weren't a lot of them, but then they were very salesman-y, and I didn't sell anything. I just, here, this matches with what's going on with you, type of a thing. Just kneeling down and being on eye level, everyone's like, why does that guy do that? And like, people would give me shit about it, and I thought it was funny. And they're wondering why I've got an 80% closing rate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it wasn't because I was trying to sell. What do you expect people to, you know what I mean? Just crazy shit. And you know, the other thing I did that freaked people out? I shook their hand.
Yeah.
No matter what it looked like, that's their fucking hand, and that's what you shake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's
And to me, that was like, and it was the weirdest thing, because you would see the reaction of their family. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, why wouldn't you shake their hand? That's what you do with everyone else. And, hopefully I rubbed off on some people. You know what I mean? That's basically.
I look at it that way. That's my philosophy. I don't want to preach to anybody. I don't want to, criticize or get tough with anybody. If and when it happens, I'll deal with it accordingly. And hopefully somebody comes away with a message or a lesson learned that, hey, maybe next time I'll practice a little bit better judgment. And it may not happen. I don't know. I'm just trying to put out for my little part of the universe with somebody that I have so much admiration and love for, that it's, as a dad, it's my duty, and all those other things that, go along with being a parent, but just treating him as, a little human being.
Right.
That's all I ever want. And I think, I don't know where the wood is, maybe on this jam here, but I think people have seen that, and I think it's contagious, and it's infectious, and it allows people to feel like, wow, if I ever encounter, I guess I'll remember that one time, I saw this kid jamming out at a concert, playing the air drums and just having a great time and rocking out, and stealing dad's beer every once in a while. I'm like, damn, dude, hey, these beers are $16.
Right.
You could drink all you want at home, but not this beer. I'm not paying another $16 for an arena beer, but
so arena beer. So me and Seth go to see Van Halen, right? And so he's like 12, I think, at this tour, because we saw, his first tour is David Lee Roth, and every, Van Halen, we saw every Van Halen show. So, so I'm like, dude, because you know me, I don't drink and drive. I won't even take a sip. But I'm like, okay, I got 3 hours, dude. It's Van Halen. I'm gonna have 2 beers. You know what I mean? I'll have 2 beers. By the time we're done and everything, So, having a beer, and we're talking with these other 2 dudes like you do at concerts, and so I kind of spilled my beer a little, and Seth goes, "God damn it, Dad, I'm not driving home again." So that was like that thing that you said earlier that Dom did,
Yeah, that put you in check.
Yeah, those little proud moments, And he was serious as hell too, and he fucking pulled it off,
We for New Year's Eve, we were playing at the table, and we pulled out the board game Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And so the kids and I were playing a board game, and what is it? I don't know what I have, the White Claw or the other one. It's what are those called? You guys make fun of me for drinking those. Very high quality or high volume alcohol. The ones I buy, they're from Mexico and then shipped in from Yugoslavia. So
nice.
They have content. But anyway, I had one, and I gave Dominic one.
Yeah.
And because usually he'll sip, and I'm cool with, hey, taste this, or he'll sip a beer or whatever drink. And, it just, I'm allowing him to do that. Yeah. But I gave him one of his own, and he took that little can, and he was like, he didn't slam it like, hey, I'm going to be Mr. Fun. He sipped it, man. Just put it there. I did the same thing. New Year's at 12 o'clock, we toasted, took a sip, put it back down. I thought, to me, that was a cool moment, I think, for him to feel like he
Yeah.
was related. Because, when I was
He's
talking about the concert.
graduated.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a milestone in his life to,
Yeah, yeah.
in any father-son life, to have a sip of beer or
Absolutely.
have a beer.
Yeah.
But I go back to the concert collage, the photo that I bought him when I do the whole "Are you a big boy?" which I'm going to probably stop, by the way. Now that I think about it and say it out loud, and it's on the internet, so goddamn, it's forever. Sounds really crazy, but he'll be like, "Yeah, Dad, remember beer?" And I'm like, "Yeah, remember we had that beer?" And so I think just allowing him to feel like he can be himself and be cool and safe, like a child who says "fuck" to get a rise out of everybody. Oh my God, don't say that. He can't say fuck.
Right.
Well, you stub your toe, I stub my toe. There's a time when you got to say fuck.
Yeah, in my house, the rule was for the kids, man. You can say it as long as it's in context, but don't say it outside.
And I think that's the beauty and the lesson that I wanted to
Or try
convey to
not to.
Dominic for years.
Yeah.
So, he'll cuss if he needs to, but he just won't to do it to get a rise out of everybody and be the center of attention, just like
Yeah.
the whole beer thing. And it was so cool to see that I've instilled these nice values that he's absorbed, and he's just able to take his beverage and just sip it. Doesn't have to chug it.
Mhm.
We laughed. It was just a really cool moment in time to welcome in 2022 between
Yeah.
me as a dad and my son, who I don't recognize as special needs. I don't treat him with kid gloves. It was just
Right.
he was just a dude and a bro, and we were hanging out, having a beverage on New
Right.
Year's Eve,
Absolutely.
So it was
Absolutely,
cool.
man.
So
Yeah,
if
when,
you hear a story about going to strip clubs, it's really going to be Dominic's idea.
Sure.
Exactly
But,
right.
yeah, in our family, when of course, we grew up in a different age, but in our family, and I was at the tail, end of that generation, you could drink at family functions at 14. And it was just no one was getting crazy, you know what I mean?
But I think there's a balance in that ability to, again, the way I look at my parental wisdom, which who the hell knows,
Yeah.
but I wanted to make sure, like with Nicholas, when my eldest son, when he was 6 or 7, he, for some reason, wanted to watch, horror movies.
Mhm.
No, not Dad's horror, WHOR movies, but HORROR movies when he was young.
Horror.
Yeah, horror. My movies are I'm still on VHS, thank God. No one has a video player. But we watched a movie, oh my gosh, 12 Ghosts or 13 Ghosts.
Yeah.
And we watched it, and of course, he's kind of looking and kind of freaked out. But what I did right after that is the DVD. We went to the making of, and he got to see makeup. He got to see, the actors sitting in chairs. He got to see cameras and everyone's. And I said, look, that's what it is.
Mhm.
Now, in his mind, I wasn't trying to ruin anything for him. I was just trying to say, look, there's a balance.
Right.
Yeah, it's this, but really it's this.
Right.
And when you combine the two, and I even did it with the music, take away the music and put a little, put a banjo there when there's a, that kind of squelching horror movie setup with, that one string that just kind of resonates out and somebody gets slashed. I said, imagine putting a banjo on that. It's the funniest thing. And that's what it is. And so, I'm going to slash you, and it's like, it's Boots Randolph, the Benny Hill theme, and all that stuff going on. But and the whole point was just to show him again balance, and that's what I'm doing with Dominic. I'm just trying to establish balance.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, we talked about school. I debated about graduating versus keeping him in until he was 21. And I made the choice to have him graduate and walk with his class. And he did that. It's tough because now what? And now what comes with a lot of strings, not only for me, but as a, as a individual with a need for the rest of his life since birth, who somehow has to fit in society, either at the state level or Fed level,
Right.
and either as a dependent, recipient, or contributor.
Mhm.
So, what does that mean? Well, it means that Dominic might be supplemented with maybe SSI. He might be supplemented with what they call the disability waivers program through the states. But a lot of them are not only backlogged. Our DD waiver program for the state of New Mexico has a 13-year waiting list. Now, I don't know if that's other
Wow.
states, but 13 years in my mind, and not just as a parent, but as a politician, unacceptable. How was it? I've
Right.
asked a question.
That is
What is it a funding thing? Because I
totally.
could get that. If it's funding, so be it. Okay. My question to some individuals who are going to run for state office. Okay, we got CARES Act money. States got a lot of CARES Act money trying to, boost the economy. I didn't see anywhere that Department of Health was going to receive a good chunk of money to chip away at a waivers program for those special needs individuals. Now, I did make a comment, and I try to not make too many political comments on Facebook. I use Facebook really to joke, and I probably got caught with my humor, our humor, in situations where somebody was serious, and I might have made a joke, and maybe there was a little offense taken. Guilty. But I thought that, what Facebook was for. I didn't know if it was for serious stuff. I thought it was for, we're all supposed to just,
Right.
tongue in cheek. But I did write a comment that I said, it was our governor for the state of New Mexico signed an executive order for LB. Refresh me on the acronym. And not that I'm being disrespectful, I just want to make sure I get it right.
Plus
Thank you.
2.
So they were going to get some special privilege of the state. And I said, great. So fantastic. So be it. But then I just said, okay, but what, because they were protesting. And I said, but what about those who can't protest? The silent individuals who are citizens and voting citizens of the state of New Mexico,
Right.
who are unable to go and protest at the Roundhouse and demand
Right.
action of themselves for themselves and their families.
Right.
Where's that executive order using CARES Act money to whittle down a 13-year waiting time to maybe 1 year?
Mhm.
Because with $100 million, you could probably whittle that away. And now that was, a lot of states, I don't know, I can't remember exactly what the state of New Mexico got, but it was a chunk of change that
Yeah.
could have helped a lot of people, including those who are silent, who don't, you get a lot of parents, I think, who just kind of, they question, they're frustrated, they're angry,
Mhm.
but they're content. We'll
Right.
take what you give us. Thank you. You might have others who go, hey, why are they getting free money? Why are they getting handouts? Well, true. I think that's a fair statement, whether I agree or disagree with it. But until somebody's in a position that for the rest of their life they have to care for somebody or
Right.
find some place that will care for them, again, i.e. facility or whatever, it's one of the toughest things to try and convey to somebody and
Right.
articulate to somebody because they haven't gone through it. And again, I go back to I wouldn't know what it is to have to convulse on the floor, to have an epileptic or whatever seizure. I wouldn't know, but people live with this every day.
Mhm.
Where's my compassion to help somebody instead of just walk over them and call them and assume they're a drunk or a drug addict? And I think so.
Right.
Yeah, I think for me that understanding of humility was just trying to convey, look, I'm not chastising anybody's gender identity.
Sure.
So be it. But man, I want to look at the meter here and find out why this is okay, great. Then it's almost the same thing. Why aren't we addressing the special needs issue and having an opportunity for individuals who are special needs to be looked at in a way that
Mhm.
they can traverse through a system that's a lot easier than it is to hinder.
Right.
And I'll use probably the only time I'll use the word a system that is retarded of itself, because it creates so many roadblocks and hurdles that people either get frustrated and tired and they give up,
Right.
or they just said, I'll take what I'll take. And I think that's a plan.
And here's the thing too, with disability, the fight for disability rights, yada yada yada, whatever it is, whatever your condition is, whether it be MS or ALS, breast cancer,
Yeah.
whatever. You have all these people in these smaller groups fighting like hell for the same attention, when they should all come together like a hub on a wheel. And now you're the largest lobbying group in the country by number. That you're half the population.
I agree. And at the same time, I look at it this way. So I'm not saying I disagree with the substance of
the power to be heard, basically.
But the power,
had no
the
other
numbers,
choice to be heard.
absolutely right. The numbers, the groups, the ability to come together.
Sure.
Now, the cynicism I think I've started getting as a politician in seeing and trying to champion and lobby for a great many things of my community are now the subsectors of these things. So the group went from here, populace, to now little microbes of, well, how come this? And, I know that my son, I've always wanted to go to the Buddy Walk in New York City. It's the largest Buddy Walk. At the same time, I think like any other organization, you contribute, and, the more money you give, you go up in this tier level. But I thought, you know what? I'm not giving a dime to, the national, I think it's National Down Syndrome Network, whatever it is, and respectfully. So I'm not just blowing it out. I don't remember what it is. But for me, I just want to go to the walk. I'm around, and maybe I can relate to other parents. Maybe, hell, I might even make lifelong friends.
Right.
But I don't want to have, again, Dom, be part of a system that then looks at number. Because again, and again, maybe I'm the idiot. Maybe I'm looking at a perfect world. If there was a group that was singular, National Down Syndrome, then everybody who was, diagnosed with whatever form, just Down syndrome, that, what would they receive from joining in an organization other than maybe a T-shirt? And, I look at it as, what parts of the pie would he get? Now, again, the way I say it might be coming off like, oh, well, he's just saying what's in it for him. That's not what I'm saying at all. I am saying there's a difference in some regard between equity and equality. Large group, equality, equal. Then
I'm all for equality, not equality.
It gets into equity. Well, that person, somebody might say, oh, well, your son's not that bad. My son's this, therefore this. And that's where I kind of, for me personally, get turned off from certain organizations that are supposed to champion efforts.
Right.
And in turn, just kind of, doing more pomp.
Well, with disability stuff, I'm always, donate local. The people who are actually doing
something that you can actually go and do, maybe a pop-up and go a physical building, a facade that you can walk through.
Yeah, like, we're having a fundraiser for these kids to go to camp. Cool. Okay. No problem.
And I'm all for that. I really am. It's but on a national, larger scale, just
there's a ton of that's what I'm saying. There's a ton of these small groups that are so passionate.
Yeah.
If they're able somehow just to channel as far as a voice.
I got to tell you, and I agree with
you.
I'm sure,
it's tough like anything, but
I do agree with you 100%. I just feel that, and again, I use the word cynical, but in the word cynical as, look, this is working for us here. We don't need to expand and do all this. It would be great. But then I also look at it as, again, just me personally, if I created a group of, Down syndrome here in my community, and there's not very many, maybe two aside from Dominic, so maybe three altogether. I'm not looking at as what am I going to then use this group to get? Because what I would say is, well, how can I get these things for the group?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to merge with a neighboring community? Well, maybe for a picnic, maybe for a awareness, maybe advocacy, maybe for something else. But when it comes to, I think, splitting donations, there's a difference at that money level with money specifically,
Right.
where equality and equity, they're different. And I've always found that as a problem. So for me, my responsibility is to try and get Dom stuff that I can hopefully get for him. So if I'm not here and he's able to receive a state benefit, so be it. SSI, so be it. That's what's he's allowed to. So I'm not just
Right.
forcing something that making it
Right.
about a thin
And none
air,
of this
because
stuff happens overnight. It all takes months
Whew,
and months and
it's
years and months. It's the amount of red tape you have to go through is complete bullshit. The
you
first
might
time
as
you ask for anything, it's kicked back. Then you got, just accept it. It's going to get kicked back. Don't worry about it. Usually you
It
can get it on
feels-
the second or third try.
it feels like climbing Mount Everest. It really
Yeah.
does. You have all those elements against you. You just want to get to the top.
Right.
You know what's at the top, but you just can't get there. And for some, now I got to be very honest. I was, again, I applaud the universe for looking out after us here. But my experience, even with SSI, was not as hectic, and I was prepared for hectic. I really was. I was saving money for a lawyer because I knew it was going to be costly. So we're talking. I tried to get up to $10,000 just in case if it went that high to help with my just traverse SSI. But it went really smooth, and so went to the doctor, got all the medical, did the interview. First thing I did, though, was get a court order that granted me guardianship from Dominic for the rest of his life.
Gotcha.
I took over everything. I debated, I debated their various court orders that you can do, some for medical, some for financial, some for this, some for that. But I wanted to do something that covered him 100% because I never wanted to, something, God forbid, again, happened to us if we're together and he has to go, to a hospital, then something belabors him able to get some assistance or help. So, it is a catch-22 though. So if something happens to me, my son or whomever, his mom, maybe Dominic's mom has to go through that whole process.
Right.
And, it could be a little bit more tumultuous. So I'm hoping not, but I'm prepping for that day to try and get a secondary so I can have somebody step in and fill that role in the event that I'm unable to do it, either still being on this earth or logistically out maybe on business doing something.
Okay, so a lot of things are going on right now in the world for the past couple of years, and there's a lot of anxiety disorders that have become disability, etc. Right? So, and people have been out of school, but in school, but you know what I mean, homeschooled and then video schooled. For someone who's now just having a baby and planning on what they have to do to get their child from the beginning, from what you've learned and what you know now, how do they start?
Well, I think the first thing is once your child is diagnosed with something, make sure you utilize that to go through the process with the state right away. I don't know. Again, 13 years is a long time. And the way I looked at it personally, and maybe it was my ego that got the best of me, maybe it was just my willingness to see my role and responsibility as a dad, was, well, I don't have to worry about it. I'm going to work. I'm going to take care of him. I'm going to work. Well, when you're out and you're unemployed and it's been a few years factored in with the pandemic, reality slaps you in the face and it hurts. So I would, regardless of means, I would go through the state and apply for, again, what is called the DD waiver. Put your child through that process. So, if you have the means, then so be it. And that 13-year period comes, because by the time your child's an adult, if you haven't got a court order, then they're considered of legal mind, sound mind. And
Right.
I'm just talking on the cognitive side. So I don't know,
Right.
with other physical or physicalities that are other issues. But
Right.
if your mind and you're not all there and you don't have the cognitive understanding of your age, then that's scary. So I would absolutely go and file right away with any state that you're living in. The second thing I would do is really start looking at the social security process. And it's lengthy, it's intimidating, but asking 1,000 questions and preparing if you ever have to go through the court side of it, I think by starting early, or as early as you can, is something I would have told myself day 2 of being a dad, and knowing when I was holding my son that this is what's going to happen, Leon. You should start applying. And even so much as putting me in a corner and shaking me by the lapels and going, "Get your head out of your behind, dude, because you can't predict the future. Do this for your son."
Right.
I think that's the best thing for any parent to begin doing.
And so how should they approach, let's say it's getting, time for school. How should they approach that?
The other thing with school is I would absolutely meet with a principal and or SPED director. Because again, we started, Dominic, they came to us because, again, I call it a number, but I think it does well for the school. Don't get me wrong. I see the value in a school recognizing that, hey, we should reach out. So I don't want to, come off too crass, but I think calling the school, letting them know what the issues are, and bringing in as much documentation as you can, because the more documentation you have as a parent, the more you can put in your child's individual education plan. Once, as I said, that is a binding document. And once that's agreed upon, so if your child has anxiety, hearing, speech, all this stuff, that needs to go in there. And it might seem 50 pages long, but that has to go in there. And I would bring all that. And I really would. Again, we were lucky. We set up things. They came to us. And aside from the limitations that we had with some of the therapies, he still went through school and got through school. But that's what I would do. And again, if I go back in the time machine and tell myself that, absolutely day one.
And how would you suggest that they deal with issues or problems that come up? Because things can change.
Be a presence, man. Huge.
You know what I mean? Like let's say it's mid-year, something else happens, boom, something's added, but it's not in there.
Nothing wrong with being a presence. Nothing wrong with asking questions. And I think that's why I've seen a lot of parents who have kind of been turned off by the IEP because they don't know. And I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm just saying I
just went through the process,
I just went through the process and kind of agreed, and we had somebody taking care of Dominic, and I was good. Right. But you have some parents who are like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what I've agreed to.
Yeah. I've had nightmare stories, and
it really is. And again, I'm not saying, like, oh, they need to educate themselves. No.
Yeah, no, it's just about being proactive.
Ask questions and just be seen. If you can do those two things, they will start making sure that they're coming to you to help your child.
Because they actually like when you ask questions.
Oh, they
you know what I mean? Really?
They will say they invite it, but then at the same time, they're going to be like, okay, not that you're asking too much. That's never the case. Right. But be a presence and sometimes a thorn in the side. You gotta keep asking and making sure they see you walking down the hall, because when they see you, boom, your child is going to, they're going to start seeing results. And more importantly too, the department is going to try to and should evolve to that higher level. So, others are benefiting. And that's all I ever wanted to do. I had the opportunity, V, if I look back on my record, and I've talked to a lot of experts, if I wanted to, I could have sued the school district here in my community. I chose not to for a few dozen reasons, but the biggest ones were if I did anything to our school that would limit funding,
Right.
that would limit other things of reactional, emotionally decision making that could change the entire structure, shifting it, maybe even if it's going like the Titanic,
Right.
nothing turns on a dime that big. And I didn't want to do that because I knew that it would affect Dominic and would affect a great many students in our district. So I just was content. I was happy. And if he was being taken care of and
Yeah.
there was some ability to get things done, I was all for that. But yeah, I was also a presence, be there.
Now
in the
let
school.
me ask you something on the personal side. So since he's graduated, now do you feel you can take on certain things that you couldn't while he was in school, that you feel you can address a little
That's
freer?
that's a good question.
I
I
mean, because
still
it's always a concern because you don't want
n-
shit to
n-
run downhill.
let me tell you this. I think respectfully, I still treat the whole thing with some kid gloves. Now,
Mhm.
let me tell you that as a politician and a school board member, I never want to go in there demanding. I never want to go in there making somebody feel like they're the only ones taking the daggers.
Right.
I know the limitations. I know
Sure.
what can be done, and how. Meaning, if everybody did what they were supposed to do. So, for the most part, I still try and help. I still question, and I might shake my head in a one-on-one conversation. I might even point the finger, but I could never be at the table as a board member and just criticize and chastise. Now, I did make a comment that I kind
Yeah,
of
I mean, but
felt.
there's difference when you go like, okay, here's what I see as a problem. This, and this should happen without calling anyone or
No, absolutely.
everyone knows that.
I try to
Yeah.
respectfully give some input in
Right.
a way that will comply to the rules, that
Mhm.
will comply to again funding,
Right.
and more so, really try and create a very wide canvas, because not every student is going to need maybe this therapy or that therapy. But I
Mhm.
do want this canvas to be large enough that a good SPED director can come in very open mindedly and continue to either paint a picture that helps create a more consistent, positive, proactive SPED department for the purposes of making sure, again, these SPED students are treated and respected like any other student. I'll
Right.
tell you this. I read an article just the other day that said, is there still a need to label special education as special education?
Right.
And it got me thinking. It really did, because I don't like a lot of the verbiage that these labels and definitions are for my son and others, special needs or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I simply asked one day, just in a general dialogue that wasn't in a session, wasn't in a meeting, nothing official. I said, "What? Why aren't we just calling them students?" I mean,
What do I always say, Leon? Just tell me your name.
why? That
Right.
was all I was trying to convey.
Right.
Now, again, on the bureaucratic side, all the red tape, all the graphs, everything else, label, 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 label,
Yeah.
label, label. And then now we have a mishmash. And now, we have a spectrum. And now we have a this. And now we have a that, which is fine, but it's confusing. And it's not
Yeah.
only confusing, but people are, they're smart. And it can either go one way or the other, meaning now I'm going to run with everything that I'm seeing right in front of me. ADD, OCD, ADHD, anxiety. I have all that.
Yeah.
And, you can't tell me otherwise. Well, so be it.
Sure.
But, you also have issues that, you know, somebody is completely completely bedridden,
Right.
completely chained to a wheelchair with very, very limited movement. And if we're taking away or we're putting them on some spectrum, especially in a school district
Yeah.
where we're supposed to champion smart, open minded individuals to try and make them, help them be good citizens,
Yeah.
then we're missing the mark by, again, I think going, this is what this is. This is what this is. Again, keep your canvas
Yeah.
wide.
Reasonable accommodation should have limit.
It kind of has to, and I say that again, as
Yeah.
I said earlier.
I'm not discounting anyone on whatever scale that
No,
I
you're
don't
right.
like the term
But-
spectrum,
But and that's the thing where I think somebody in it could be easy for somebody to go, well, why don't you just get a job? Okay, well, I understand that. But if no one's living my life, again, free will, individuality, then assuming that, oh, get the hell out of the way with that cane, you're faking it.
right?
You know, we keep labeling these things instead of just trying to understand and say, look, we're blessed. Whether we agree or disagree politically, phonetically, whether we accept capitalism, socialism, we are so blessed to live in the United States of America, a government that is very helpful of its people when it needs to help them. Aside from the pandemic, aside from all the craziness, historically, it has always helped its people. I applaud that. So I think that there's no black and white in life, in anything.
I mean,
it has to be all gray. And that's why I get so.
And a lot of people don't understand, Leon, that every disability is like a fingerprint. Just because two people have MS
Exactly
doesn't
right.
mean that it's the same.
I think you hit the nail right on the head.
Variables that go into each individual's situation,
right. One hand, and again, as I said earlier, if I have 3 individuals from my community, my hometown, that are Downs, they're all different.
Yeah.
This down, again, trisomy 21, translocated, there are, so to pigeonhole and to kind of just compress into one thing has been my issue with traversing through a school district, then traversing through a program that is state funded and federally funded, again, allowable, but making it so difficult that I think it turns off people. And maybe at that time when I was, again, working and I thought long term, I had no rhyme or reason to want to not work.
Right.
I'm in a place that I love, in a community that I hated, despised, growing up in my youth, decided to move back to, give whatever I could give, meaning, and again, I'm not being a martyr, but just help. And I did. People believed in me, got to do a great service that is produced to tangible results, and almost be met at the end of my career with some disdain and leaving with a smudge that I didn't create. If I created something and I did something that was illegal, morally or ethically, that made me, and I said, I did it. I could see that, but left was a non-blemished record other than just rumor and speculation. It's tough to want to be in a place that is very limited. And so for my son, and just in general,
right,
my biggest bitch about the economics and microeconomics of my community was, what are you doing for seniors who just graduated from high school? Where are they going to work? How are they going to contribute to this community? How are they going to feed themselves and their families? Now factor in children or adults who are special needs. It's almost non-existent. It's zero. So part of my plan in having to work is, okay, I have to leave possibly for the benefit of my children, and
Right.
especially Dominic.
Right.
Now it's difficult because again, we are in a time where I'm sure everybody is looking for a job and everybody has a skill set. And so I'm not trying to get overburdened with that. I'm just trying to I got through the school system. My son is healthy, kids are healthy. What's step number 2? I'm 52. Downside, Dominic will be 19. Is the rest of my life just prepping my family to take the torch and carry it forward? Well, at some point, something happened in my life that gives me a platform to be able to speak to individuals, maybe of children
Yeah.
who are special needs, or Native Americans who are looking and seeing the same issues that I've seen and had to weed through in a positive way, but in a negative way. And if my own community is labeled me other than, then in my mind, do I feel comfortable of them embracing my son
I see what you're saying.
and welcoming
Right.
him, making him feel like he's part of the community? Or is he an outcast
Is
as
he
well?
guilt by association?
Well, guilt by association, or he just doesn't belong here because he doesn't belong here. And he's lived here his whole life. He's
Yeah,
gone
when
through the
people go,
school
"Oh,
system.
you're the black sheep." I'm like, "Yeah, fucking Jeff Black."
That's a tough sell. It really, it's a tough sell on oneself.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I do know that I have to have a plan for him.
Yeah. There's a lot of
I
great programs out there, though.
and there absolutely are, and that's why I think logistically I'm in north central New
It has
Mexico.
changed incredibly. In the past 20 years, it's just amazing.
We're gonna have to. I'm either gonna have to figure out how to get to these places. And again, logistically, I'm
Mhm.
in the middle of north central New Mexico. Anything closest to me
Right.
is about 80 miles away. So 160 round trip. Well, if you really love your son, you should be able to do that. I get it.
Right.
And I'm making that plan. But this isn't just about my son. This is about the others who
Right.
may not even understand, may not even acknowledge, may not even know, and just be like, hey, thinking the same thing. I'm going to take care of them. That's my responsibility for the rest of my life. And we're
Mhm.
content with what we have. That's not unacceptable, but it's something that I think I want to rip that screen away from. I want to expose that, this mighty Oz that's telling you no is really just some bureaucrat or somebody else who kind of just maybe they're trying to do the best they can, but
Plow
they
on.
but they got to be scary and tell you no, and it doesn't have to be that way, at least in my mind. And I think the more questions people ask, I think the more advocacy, and I think platforms like you have today and us discussing this, I think it really opens the eyes and it helps people start thinking in a way that, okay, how can I champion? How can I push forward without demanding? But maybe at the end of the day, and something as simple as, well, hopefully somebody learns from what I'm doing and they're
Right.
going to apply that to somebody, or they're going to try and advocate for
And
the
what a lot of
system.
people don't realize too is a lot of people are scared to speak up.
That's the biggest thing too. And I think that's
So that was why it was so great for me. I have no
well,
I have no
you,
problem bitching for you. You know what I mean?
you're shy. I know.
Yeah,
You're the
I'm like,
shyest
I'll
guy I
fight for you,
know.
sure, no problem. You know what I mean? But nicely. But
But
I'm like, hey, it's just here's your graph again.
yeah.
We just got to do this. We'll do this, and then this letter will come in, and then we'll come back. We'll write the other letter, and da 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 da. And there's a way to figure it out. You just got to go. Everything. It's like molasses.
And I think that's why inclusion for me is so important. Not
Yeah.
just to be part of something, but
Yeah.
to really have some advocacy from individuals who will
Right.
step up and help speak up for my son or others and families, and really just want to genuinely help, because
Mhm.
that's it. That's what it means to be a good human being.
Yeah, one of the coolest things that my kids ever think that one of the things that we did was when I was on the board of directors for Spinal Cord Injury Association, we worked with the wheelchair division. And me and TJ, my oldest, were teamed up with the guy who took first place. And, for, whatever reasons, Tyler got to see someone with challenges
Yeah.
fucking rock on. You know what I mean? So the next thing you know, he's drawn, he's designing electrical arms that are, attached to a wheelchair and stuff. And so my kids always grew up around things like that, because there should never be, like when people go, "Oh, what do you got any gay friends?" I'm like, no, I have friends.
Yeah.
Black friends either. I don't have any fucking Native American friends either. I just have fucking friends. Relax with your fucking label.
That's I think what has gotten us into a lot of trouble. And again, what the hell do I know? I'm not preaching. I'm just saying, simply put, that's
Yeah.
my friend.
Yeah, come on.
That's
It's
or
really
that
simple.
I don't like that guy at this
Rating
moment,
it.
but he might be my enemy. He might not be, but that's my we start again pigeonholing and labeling, and
Yeah.
and again, pretty graphs and symbolisms. They're great, but man, to me, if
There comes a time to do something.
well, there comes a time, absolutely, and if if there's issues with a certain group,
Mhm.
they're almost the same issues with this other group.
Right.
They really are. And a lot of it is just acceptance and understanding. And again, I tried to convey that in my little Facebook quote about,
Yeah.
the LBQ I'll,
Right.
and special needs.
Mhm.
It's almost the same thing. So why, hell, I'll rock a rainbow flag for the cause.
I have no problem.
I mean, now short shorts, I might have a problem. I haven't really been doing my glute exercises, but give me a flag, man,
Just use
all day
coconut
long.
oil before you shave, Leon.
I unfortunately won't go in a tube top, but I sure as hell will take a flag and wave that son of a gun and go, hell yeah, because I know the importance and significance
Yeah.
of allowance and acceptance for this group is going to be the same for this group. And I think that's all.
Well, here's my
The
thing.
good majority are
so you
asking
have
for.
all this group who are claiming they want a voice. You have it. How are you
Yeah.
using it?
Then
Is it
how are you using
constructive?
it?
No, it isn't.
That's why, again, I go back
And it's
to,
too bad, because it should be constructive.
I agree with you. And that's why for me, I've kind of just stayed away from the larger group things. I mean,
Yeah.
as a politician, it's interesting because the way I look at it and always have is two ways. The biggest way is I'm not very smart. And because I'm not very smart, I have to ask a lot of questions. I have to see something. I have to kind of look at it and assess it and kind of, and then I get to look at the whole gray area. So for me, everything that I think is of substance should have one or two questions. Okay, now that you have it, how are you going to respectfully use it? Voting, picking on voting. Everybody, I think now, with classifications, with races, has the ability to vote.
Mhm.
Hell, even in New York, I mean, you don't have to be a New Yorker, I think. You can be an immigrant who can vote now. So that's going to raise some ruckus. But is that
That's
constitutional
insane.
or not? I don't know. But the whole point is, okay, now that we all have this right to vote, are we all voting? And no, we're not all voting, but a good majority of us are all bitching.
Right.
And I think that's the beauty of being a citizen of the United States. It gives you that ability to do that. Although, even though it's a little skewed and warped, because again, you have the ability to do this. You may not get it,
Right.
but if you didn't exercise that,
Right.
who's at fault? I mean, I've seen elections we just needed one vote to get somebody who might have been pretty decent. And it didn't
Right.
happen because somebody said, well, I don't care. My vote don't count. And when we say that, that ripple effect impacts, again, this group, this group, this group. And then in that, those ripple effects affect us in society, affect us in our communities. And it just continually grows. It grows and it grows, just again, like a stone being thrown into a lake. But what the hell
Very
do
well
I know?
said, sir.
Well, I do have business cards that say, but what the hell do I know?
I'm like, I'm gonna pause for a minute and make him uncomfortable.
You were like,
Yeah, and what a lot of people, from what I've learned dealing with disabilities and the aging population, a lot of people forget to bring the individual into the equation.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I mean, that was one of the things I'm like, hey, when I'd go to do a thing, I'm like, is your father or mother going to be involved? Because this is their life.
yeah.
You know.
It's interesting. I have a dilemma that I've been very vocal about, again, as a school board member.
Mhm.
You have board members who go, we are here for the students. And I've said, well, okay, a little bit.
Mhm.
You are here to represent, to enforce, to empower, to make sure people are knowledgeable of the system.
Yeah.
The oath of office was to the system of government that established what you're here to advocate for. The students are a variable or a number to that. The teachers are a variable or a number to that. The parents and guardians are a variable or a number to that.
Right.
The state is a variable, and all those have to equal a number that add up to something. If you are saying that I'm here for the kids and you do not follow the rules, or you manipulate the rules because of the kids, well, then guess what you're doing? At least in my mind, and others who might see this, you're using kids as a scapegoat to fuel and pad your own agenda. And that's what drives me wild, because again, I look at the rules, whether I agree with them or disagree with them, that is what I'm implementing. And
Right.
again, even sitting there, and even when I was on the other side on the political spectrum, never once abused any authority to go in there and said, I'm Leon and I want my kid first in line. No, I'm Leon. I want my kid to be held to the standard that we agreed upon with this individual education plan. And if anything is not lived up to, then I will come in as Leon the parent, and then I will come in as the Hulk. And don't freak out if I turn green
Right.
and destroy the room, because now I'm pissed. Because again, we all didn't live up to
Yeah,
what we
and
agreed
that's
to.
another thing about parents being upset, and parents should be upset when their kids aren't being treated correctly. And now we have this climate, or at least it's perceived to be through a couple reports and da da da. It doesn't mean it's widespread. It could have happened 3 times. I don't know. I don't believe everything I see. Because I can't. It's stupid. But this has been talked about, and they're trying to make rules to make parents seen as domestic terrorists for arguing with the school board.
Yeah.
And of course I don't agree with, I'm talking about people who go, that's not my fucking opinion. I'm just talking about it.
Yeah.
And it's sad because now people who are passionate because their kid for the 3rd year hasn't gotten what they're supposed to get, they go boom, all of a sudden that parent's arrested and now the family's fucked.
It's interesting
because people wouldn't think that as a, because that's what I think when I see it. Who's that affecting? That it's not being that person. You know what I mean?
It's an interesting dynamic. So for the state of New Mexico,
yeah,
when I say the system, our education, the platform, the foundation is established by the lawmakers in our state capital in Santa Fe. So we don't have where maybe some districts might have local elections to maybe then vote on um, what's the big thing? The history thing. There's another word for it. That's
Critical
more.
race theory.
Thank you. So parents just can't come together and vote that we want
You know,
CRT or we don't want CRT.
it's very interesting because they know that that term is a lightning rod.
Yeah.
Change the term.
Well, not only that, but
You know what I mean? How about say proper history, the way it happened, put it in context so
You
people
ask
don't freak out
anybody what
for
CRT
stupid
is?
reasons.
The first thing they're going to say is, I don't know what it is, but I don't like it.
Right. Yeah.
And that's such an interesting argument because I don't know what it is, but I don't like it. Everything is
The
relative.
problem, it's been politicized rather than here's for educational
You're
purpose.
absolutely right. And when I say everything's relative, my son, special
Mhm.
needs people, I
Yeah.
don't know them, therefore I don't like them. Or I don't know them, therefore I won't approach them because I've either been told not to, or I I or worst case, they're viewed upon as much easier targets for unscrupulous issues. So somebody coming in and, you know, wanting to hurt or befriend for the purposes of making it a joke and hurting them that way. So the debate on school boards is very interesting. Why I say the system. When I swore an oath of office, the oath of office said you are supposed to adhere to these rules under the state, New Mexico State Constitution.
Mhm.
They didn't say, now that Leon, you're a school board member, just make sure you think you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. It's spelled out. A, B, C. Now, I may not agree with A, may not agree with B, might like C.
Mhm.
But I think that's the biggest problem. And when you have people with titled positions at the table, I don't call them leaders because leaders is to
Yeah.
me a condescending term.
They're supposed to be there for the community.
They're supposed to be
Community
there
representative.
as
How
a
about that?
representative
Yeah.
of the system, of the people, of all the, again, facets. And so when you have people also not knowing the rules, then the first thing they're going to do, no one's ever going to be, except Leon, who's the dumbass, is going to be like, well, I don't know, so I'm not gonna vote for it. Give me a
Right.
chance to learn it, and maybe I'll see what it is, and we can figure it out. But not a lot of people are going to say that. What they are going to say is, hey, I'm in charge. I'm supposed to. I'm going to fix it. And I think that's part of the issue across for school boards, for state leadership, for federal leadership. You have everybody wanting to fix something. Uh, I've only said one thing. Okay, you were an official, somebody at the table to make a decision, lawmaker. You were elected. What did you do? Show me one thing that you did. Show me one thing you did.
Right.
I'll have to answer that question, Leon. I want you to know one thing that you did for our school system.
Mhm.
Now, proudly, I can say, well, just the other day, I finished 2 bits of policy. One on a very cool program that I don't want to give too much because it isn't official yet, but it's going back to having a school create proactive measures in this using rather than just suspend a student, the old peer court program style things.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
you're not just saying, okay, Leon's a habitual absentee
Yeah.
student
No,
and suspend him.
we had student court.
Yeah. So let's give him an opportunity to be heard. Maybe not everybody knows what Leon's home life is. And so rather than assume and just black and white, you don't do this, chop the head off, get the hell out of here.
Mhm.
It just unheard of. So created a policy, looking at others, researching. So I did that. Really proud of this program. I think it's going to be a game changer. The other one was, okay, creating a charter within the school board that spells out what 2 committees will be doing and why we're doing it.
Mhm.
Because without it, if no one's reading the rules, well, now I'm on this committee, V, and I don't like that you're wearing that jacket. And because you're wearing that jacket, I get to say, because I'm at the table, that you better take it off. And if you wear it again, forget it. You're in trouble. Exactly right. And that's the problem, I think, with decision makers
Yeah.
and creating, for whatever the agendas are, but creating labels, creating so many charts, it's a distraction. I really call it a distraction.
Yeah.
Let's get back to what it is. Let's get back to simple things. Rather than labels, that's V. That's Leon. That's so
Yeah,
and so.
it's, I mean,
That's it.
it's so easy, and they just, people are making things overly complicated when you can start at, hi, my name is.
I think it's a really bad tactic that we've developed as human beings to become unapproachable. And don't get me wrong, I say that
And it's
knowing
like,
that
as soon
I've
as
done that.
if I'm listening to something and as soon as someone calls someone a name, it's over. I've done it, okay, they're not even here to talk about what's
Yeah.
going on. It's about something else.
We
What aboutism?
we are able, I think, as human beings, we've seen compassion. We know we're compassionate. I just think we get caught up. I've done things in my life where it's like, shit, I'll never do that again. Now, I think a lot of it too is, if we can really just admit our fears, admit that we're not very smart, meaning we're smart, but we're not smarter than others because of ego or because of fear or because of labels, whatever. And again, getting deep and maybe a little philosophical with trying to change free will, because again, the beauty of free will. But we've done it. Look at all the catastrophes we've had. We've had money. People have forest fires, damages. We've helped create GoFundMe accounts. We've donated food, blankets. You yourself, when you guys had that horrific tornado, we're out there just feeding, encouraging, businesses. Hey, if you're going to throw away that food anyway, why not wrap it up, put it in a bag, and let's give it to a family so they can eat tonight. It's
Right.
really kind of that simple. Now, I say that because if something happens here, is Leon going to be there? Probably not, because I'm a lazy asshole. And as I tell the kids, do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
Which is a huge scapegoat, but I'm insecure beyond all hell, and I'll admit it. I hate people. I'm scared to death. I want everybody to love me, and when they don't, I cry and be like, oh my God, I can't go out there and it's okay. I didn't order the turkey melt. I really wanted the BLT, but I'll eat it anyway.
Yeah.
Sitting there and I'm allergic to turkey and I got hives and I can't
Holy
breathe.
shit.
But you're just sitting there going, huh. So, but that's me, and I can accept that. I'm still lovable.
And I'm over here eating crab legs, soaking Leon with fucking. Oh my God!
I didn't, and I didn't say anything. I'm just kind of going.
Am I getting you, Leon?
I'm like, I look like the Gorton's fisherman after a while because I had to go to the gift shop to buy a slicker and a hat.
Absolutely.
So he could eat his crab legs.
Fisherman.
I had all the cats are following me back to my hotel room.
Right.
I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Man, close the door.
That was a great time. That was a great memory.
Yep, absolutely.
That was a great time.
But yeah, I mean, hopefully people will be a little bit nicer. They need to understand there's a lot of people who are using the thing that's going on now as an excuse and they're expecting, because they're not used to dealing with the program and how it works, and everything takes months, and now everyone's trying to get the same benefit. And it's hurting, and they mean well.
Yeah.
I'm not, of course, every parent wants to, make sure that their child is safe. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it's overloading a system that was already overloaded.
Yeah. And that's the thing again, where everybody does want to help. And as a decision maker, what am I saying that's going to again, create as large of a canvas that is both fiscally responsible,
Mhm.
fundamentally responsible, and secondly, the continuity's there 5 years from now. Growing, of course, because it's organic, but it's still there. And that's tough because I don't think that's that's a philosophy a lot of people try to invoke
Mhm.
when, either trying to help with good intention the system. And everybody wants to change the system. Everybody wants instant results. Everybody says, hey, um, because I'm this and you're that, I should go first.
Right.
And it's just, it hasn't worked. And we've known what works, and it takes time. But I just think at the end of the day that if we can just sit down and again, we could probably write maybe a John Lennon song, an Imagine Part Two with the Kumbaya that I'm trying to convey. But if we can all just, and I think you nailed it so eloquently. That's John. That's Bill. That's Sue. That's so and so.
What's her
Well,
name?
that's the asshole. Okay, I'm good with being an asshole. We're all assholes.
Are
But
you more willing to listen to someone who's screaming or someone who approaches you, hey, in a friendly manner? Hi, my name's
exactly right.
Vince. Let's have a conversation. Let's
Yeah,
talk.
that would be great. It really would.
It's very simple. Everyone needs to ratchet down. The whole world's in a.
And I'm the prior that you just said. I'm the guy who's going to be like, well, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm also kind of a little bit weary at times that conversing might go into an altercation, which is why I continue to put that
Yeah,
chip
but
back
it
on my
shouldn't be
shoulder.
because as
No, I
adults, you
know.
should be able to have a civil conversation.
If I'm coming with my hand extended out for a handshake, hey, I'm Leon,
Absolutely.
and someone starts swinging on me, what am I going to do?
Right.
Everyone, I'm going to kick their ass. Well, my mind doesn't think that way. My mind thinks, okay, one, I hope he doesn't hit me in the face. Two,
Right.
what am I going to do? Attack him? I'm probably not. How can I de-escalate the situation? And I think those are tricks that I've taught myself to try and cope with various things in life. I'm a big guy, but that doesn't. And even though when I puff up, like I said, that's a facade. But I'd
Yeah.
never want to go.
And too, when you enter into a conversation and you see it's going, okay.
Yeah, you back at her.
Yeah,
You're
hey,
absolutely
you
right.
like Motorhead?
Exactly right. Let me tell you the story about the crab legs. That gets him going all the time. But you're right. And I think that's the lesson. And I think that's the beauty in somebody who has a limitation, again, physical, cognitive. Dominic, yeah, he has a bad day, but he's pure love. And
Right.
I guarantee he probably already forgot about the one thing that had happened. Like before we got on, he had spilled his soda.
Mhm.
There would have been a time where I would like screaming, like, oh my God, what the hell? And
Yeah.
then I'm like, well, it cleans up fairly easy.
Right.
Now, I did say, look, we eat and drink at the table. So if it spills, it's in the kitchen and I can
Yeah.
mop it up, or you can mop it up. You're going to clean it up. But and he was a little saddened because he's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But then 2 minutes later, big smile and a hug. And I got over here and we started talking. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm striving to be.
Like when my kids did that stuff, I'm like, oh, good thing they make more. Just a
And
fucking man, don't worry about it. Whatever.
and I think that's where some have that ability. I think it took me a long time to learn that ability. And I'm more of a volatile reactionist. Oh my God, the rug. Well, they make more rugs. Well, you don't know, I'm unemployed. Now I'm throwing in shit, to justify my rant. Or again, and I'm really embarrassed to say this, but are you the big
That's
boy
funny.
in that
'Cause I'd be
picture?
like, fuck, that was a cool rug. Fuck.
I want to get to that. I do, because to me, I think that's my personal piece.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I can be a better dad for my son. And again,
Yeah.
teach him that shit happens. Don't worry about it. it just happens, and we'll
Right.
deal with it. No sense to put all this other crap on top of crap and just everybody's in a tizzy going, what the hell just happened?
Right.
The mood is, well, fuck it. They make another run, or I'm glad they make more of those. And I think I'm getting there. I really am, because I'm training myself. But he's teaching me almost daily, and
Right.
I have that gift of him showing me that life isn't that bad, man. It really isn't, and
Mhm.
just enjoy it. And that's the beauty of being a
Absolutely.
dad of
And
special needs.
you know, t- uh the earlier in the week, Mr. Wagner passed away, and at 97 years old.
Mhm.
And we all went to this place called the Barn, and it was his kids. So he had kids later in life, got married, had kids later in life. Everyone hung out at the barn. All the metalheads, long hairs, misfits. On the weekends, at least 250 on a Friday night. People every week, at least. But the cops all knew we were all there, so they kind of let us be. But yeah, dude, look at that. Isn't that
Yeah.
fucking great at 97? Look at him. Fucking
Big ass
woo,
smile,
give me
just
some nurses.
yeah. Yeah.
Hello, nurse.
I'm here,
Yeah.
and
So
we're beautiful.
fly free, buddy, Mr. Wagner. But and I was thinking about it, and because other disability is viewed upon differently than when we were kids, and a lot of it's mental disability, and we have a mental health problem in our country. And I was thinking, after he died, and I wasn't sad because he's 97. Sad I'm not gonna have breakfast with him at Friday, again, but dude, he had the fucking ultimate life. And then I was thinking, how many people he saved just because he gave him a place to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because our whole thing is that if you're fucked up, yeah, come on in. So it wouldn't, it'd be everyone and anybody. You know what I mean? All the misfits were welcome, and the safe harbor that he gave to those kids during that time, I just thought was, pretty beautiful thing. You couldn't do it today. Jumping cars, having keg parties with bonfires 40 feet high in the burbs. No.
It's frowned upon, especially at my age now, when I'm like, who the hell's over there? When I'm looking at the neighbors,
Right.
I'm like, what the?
Exactly.
Turn down that music. It's 9 o'clock. I'm in bed. But that is the beauty. And I think that is, that's a smile like that, and any other smile. Again, the smile, the two things that I'll always cherish for the rest of my life are if I'm sitting at home and when school was still in session, and then both my kids would come home off the bus, the door would open, and I would hear from Dominic, "Hey, Dad." I would melt. I would beam, first of all, because one, he's home safe, had a great day,
Right.
and I got to hear, "Hey, Dad."
Mm-hmm.
And then he did whatever. Well, he stripped down because he just likes, once you're home, I'm in underwear and I'm listening to my iPod and I'm doing my thing. And that was it, man. That was like, hey, beauty of it is just I'm here, and
and
and I'm the guy.
The other thing that happened too is a lot of people don't understand people with special needs or sensory things, or during this pandemic that happened, a lot of kids weren't able to see or touch, hug their mom, dad's brother, sister, whatever, who happened to be in these homes. I have several friends who, documented everything online that was going on. And it was, because how does that affect them? Because it totally different than it affects you and I, it absolutely on many levels. And, hopefully that doesn't, hopefully that's not the boogeyman.
That just something I hope that I have my son with me by my side in my home forever.
Right.
But it just, the reality of it is, unimaginable. And I say that with a bit of a grain of salt, because I do get to go after we finish and hug and say, "Hey, what are you doing?" Um, but in that, I think that also is a bit of a lesson for the world, if you will.
Mhm.
That meaning that if we can embrace or see the beauty in that distance, that absence, whether you have a special needs family member
Right.
or you have somebody who's been deployed
Sure.
overseas for service, that distance, that missing, video
Or
chatting is
locked in a
great,
senior home, for
or
instance.
locked in a senior home, or just out logistically away.
Absence. Yeah.
Absence. Yes, this works with technology, but a simple human touch, an in-person smile, a handshake, a hug, man, oh man. And it's funny because I think for the most part with the pandemic, we've had to change, and not just because of distance and absence, but our handshakes are different. I think even for me, when I go to see somebody and I shake their hand, I'm like, well, this guy, did he sanitize his hands? And I'm sitting there, so I'm just as guilty of everything I've said. I'm
Did
licking
you
my
just
hand.
your ball?
And so we've changed.
Yeah.
And so, again, I'm just as guilty of a lot of the things that I said that I would love to see in the world. And I'm trying to evolve. And so, for me, I think part of the beauty of assimilation is just not only acceptance, but the beauty in that of if meeting somebody that you just said at the age that this person passed away, but the welcoming that he gave everybody. Huge. And, to experience that and hear a story is great, but to experience that and then have that memory and then hopefully, encourage others to be, of the same sound mind and understanding of, again, just acceptance. I hope we get back to that as a species
Mhm.
because we were good at it and we're good at it. We just we got a lot of other things and I think we're distracted. And in
Massively
distraction
distracted.
and fear, I think that creates a pecking order of some sort.
Well, fear
And
creates
yeah,
trauma,
absolutely right. I mean,
day in, day out, and at the level that everyone's been reacting for the last 6 years, and then we're looking at something, it might be a rematch of why it all started. Dude, no. Please, no.
well, I hope the
Can we
lessons are
fast
different.
forward, bro?
If we learned anything in the past 2 years, I hope one of two things happen: that stores get a lot smarter with. Oh, I lose you.
No, I'm here.
Oh, I went blank over here. Not sure what I hit, but I hope we learn two things, and maybe on the capitalist side of things, that stores limit the sale of toilet paper so there is no more hoarding of toilet paper. At least one lesson, because how crazy was this?
Dude, it made sense. It was wiped out. Now that's like the funny thing to me because, you know, the stuff that I write, is kind of, it goes into a bunch of stuff that people think is wacky, but if you add it together and I do it in a satirical way, but it's like that was almost like the giveaway to the programming. That was the glitch. Everyone go get toilet paper.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, I had that X and the zero. Damn it. The other thing was lamb chops. Can you imagine, like, if all of a sudden, just for some reason, there's been a run on lamb chops? Everyone,
Yep.
shortage.
Move. I'm a vegan. I don't care. I want lamb chops. They're
Yeah.
running out
There's
of
no
lamb chops.
Himalayan pink. There's no pink Himalayan salt left on the shelves.
Yeah. We're
It was just
conditioned.
funny,
We're
because
conditioned that way. Yeah.
you and me would be like, that would be the last thing we'd fucking grab. Because there's a thing called a shower, and guys are like, I ran out of toilet paper.
Well, I was
Rockers
smart.
once, like,
I bought the bidet, and so that's where I'm actually sitting on it now as we're speaking.
Well, there's a drinking fountain down the street.
Exactly.
Same thing.
It cleans
Spray
and it
hose in the
refreshes. Exactly right. I'm at the neighbor's house.
Oh no!
Don't mind him. They're used to me by now, you know. Well, remember Otis would go put himself in jail. Well, I'm the guy with the neighbor to go,
Right.
hose it down a little bit. But
Yeah, so hopefully everyone.
but we
can
have
take
conditioned
proactive.
ourselves to go crazy like that. But I think the joke's on us. Stores may not even have to limit, with this whole crazy supply and demand issue. We may
Oh,
not even,
and
we may
then
have to
the thing where
all
they're trying to
shower.
pass it in Chicago that you can shoplift anything under $950 and they won't
Man,
prosecute you.
that is
That's
I don't
ridiculous.
understand that. I don't understand that at all.
You can't
I
legalize crime, and then when people bitch about it, you're a racist or some kind of
Yeah.
ist or some kind of no, dude. You can't go steal things.
Yep. You cannot steal things. How crazy is that?
Yeah, that just blows my mind. But yeah, there's a lot of odd things that it's above our pay grade anyway.
Exactly right.
But at least we can have a voice for people who can articulate it themselves.
I hope so. I hope that we listen a little bit more, and I
Yeah.
hope that and not only just listen, but I hope we get out of our fear and just approach
Right.
and say hello. Simple.
Yeah.
It is simple. It really is. And I make it a point. It's fun. And whether I'm with Dom or whether I'm not, but if I see specifically Downs, somebody with a parent or something, what I'll first do is I'll approach the parent first.
Mhm.
And I'll say, excuse me, and I'll have a picture on my phone and I'll say, I just wanted to say hello and show you a picture of my special, beautiful boy. And it's just the parent smiles.
Yeah.
The kid's kind of going like, who the hell is this guy?
It's like being a metalhead. You're in the club,
Exactly
man.
right. You do that or you do that. And it's just relatable. And, we're just kind of laughing or, we'll have a dialogue or just something as simple as very nice to meet you. You guys
Right.
have a good day. So that's what I do. And again, I'm not saying everybody has to do that, but how great would it be if we just did, aside from any issue, just, hey, go in line, you go in front of me. And I know it's
Right.
something that's easy to do. And for me, I guess maybe we're also in a world that I haven't evolved to, which is before I say, you know what, why don't you cut in line? I have to take my phone and, Instagram it to show how great of a
Right.
person I am to let somebody go in front of me with
Right.
10 items when I have 5 items. You know what? Just do it because it needs to be done and put out some goodness in the universe. And I
Right.
guarantee it comes back in some positive way.
Just like a friend of mine just posted this, and I'll probably screw up some of the details, but the essence of the story was it was very cold out. It was like an ice storm, and there was this young woman, maybe mid-20s, freezing, looking upset, and because she recognized something in her that she recognized in her son, and then she started talking to the lady, and then there was other signs of the very similar thing, da 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 da. She was lost basically. And but it was in the freezing snow. She didn't have a jacket, and so they got her warm and taken care of. But it just simple things like taking the time.
Yeah.
It's really that easy.
It is easy, and at the same time, and again, I'm not faulting anybody if they don't do it. It is intimidating and scary, but I do hope that it's just that simple moment to just inquire and ask, because really you could be saving somebody's life.
Yeah.
I mean, ignoring.
I mean,
No,
what if she slipped, hit her head, and then she fell asleep for 3 hours? And then,
absolutely. Yeah. Just a whole lot of things that a simple, are you okay? Yeah.
Right.
Or even told, fuck off. Like, are you okay? Like, fuck
Yeah.
off. Okay,
Positive
well,
affirmation.
I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah.
I'm fucking off now.
Right on.
So you're breathing. Great. Okay. You're like,
Cool, bro.
Sir, you don't have to give me mouth to mouth now. I'm like, oh, well, hey.
What?
The
CDC said I could spit in your mouth. It's no problem. Oh, that was the best meme I saw today. But all right. We're gonna wrap this up here. We're gonna definitely do this again. I think this is a subject that needs more exploration and explanation. And we're not talking down to people. We're just trying to, here's what we've gained through what we've done. Doesn't mean that's how everything is. It's
Exactly
just
right.
one, two views, and what you, let's see. So when you're either not listening like Leon or your kid's got to drive home from Van Halen, remember everybody, that's just creativity talking. Thank you from Vaudeville Press. Leon, have a good one, brother. I love you.
Love you, V. Thank you.
All right, man. Later, people.